Let's talk small business. The Real Talk, No BS podcast for business owners and entrepreneurs who want to grow and actually enjoy the ride. I'm Mitchell Wilson. Let's get into it. Today's guest is Tamanna Rehlia, known as Tam, the founder and financial coach behind Sense and Solutions. It's a Brisbane-based financial coaching practice dedicated to helping women and small business owners make confident, informed financial decisions. Now, Tam, a qualified CPA and certified Profit First professional, she's got hands-on experience across a range of industries, okay? And she's built Sense and Solutions after helping her sister navigate the financial side of running a business overseas and witnessing firsthand just how overwhelming money can be for business owners who often feel unsupported when it comes to their finances. So her approach is education first. She shows you how to use it, why it matters, and how to feel genuinely in control of it. So today we'll get into the real stuff, understanding your numbers, getting on top of your cash flow, and building the kind of financial confidence that actually changes the way you run your business. Tam, let's talk small business.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here and talk about all business, cash flow, profit first. So yeah, let's go on. A little bit about me, as you have introduced. Yes, the mission for me is to educate people to take control of their finances. And that education comes through also looking at their psychological patterns that they carry into their businesses. So super excited.
Well, let's say this. You built Sense and Solutions after helping your sister run her business in the US, okay? Mm-hmm. So what did that experience show you about how business owners actually relate to their finances?
Yeah, very good question. So I'm going to go a little bit back in my life before I started helping my sister. So when I was in my mid-20s, working as an accountant, got married, and then I got divorced within 3 years of my married life. That divorce usually was what happens in a normal divorce. Obviously, it's a very hard situation for anyone to deal with. But in our scenario in particular, my life, it didn't go smooth. It was a very complicated task on both parties to agree on a decision. And in that moment, we actually lost all of my financial assets. So usually when you see any divorce case, it's usually 50-50 split or, 80-20, whatever the percentage would be.
I could make a joke here about women and divorce. What they normally get, what I see or think they get, I'm not sure.
Yeah. In my case, it was 0, which was very hard, which was super hard. And I was very close to being bankrupt myself. So I had to come out of that. I had a lot of shame. I had a lot of fear, and I was an accountant. I was a CPA qualified, so I was this close to losing my license. So I had to make sure that I make my decisions very carefully at the time. I take professional help, which really gave me a lot of clarity in that particular time of my life. What that taught me was clarity in the business, clarity in your finances, clarity in your personal life as well when it comes to money, because life happens. It can happen to anyone. So 10 years forward, I saw my sister going through this crisis in her business where she was very close to shutting it down. And that's when I realized a lot of people are struggling because they're not understanding. She's a very passionate entrepreneur. She knows exactly what she's doing, how she wants to do it. Very passionate, very full on energy, and very good mindset as well. But where she lagged was numbers. So she would come to me and say, I'm doing so much, but I'm not making money. I'm struggling. Can you show me what profit and loss is? Can you show me what a balance sheet is? I just need to present it to my tax accountant and I know nothing about it. So that was the time when I was like, okay, this needs to change. Things needs to happen. And that's how Sense and Solutions were formed. So hence my approach goes through, yes, we do look at numbers, but what do we need to look at first is our ability to control our emotions to be in that situation, because that bankruptcy actually gave me a lot of uncertainty in my life, like it happens in the cash flow in our life as a business owner. So now, me being a business owner, face that as well. But I have got the skills, I've got the knowledge to balance that. And that's what I want to give to other business owners, especially women, because unfortunately, for some reason, we struggle a little bit with the numbers.
Okay, now I'm sitting here listening to that, and one thing that pops in my ear is you said, hey, your sister was getting the numbers ready for the accountant. Now, every business owner has an accountant.
Mhm.
But as a business coach, I see all these business owners, and they may have accountants,
Yep.
but are there just to do their taxes and not necessarily educating what they should be looked for. Now, that's a blanket sort of, I know it's a blanket comment that I'm making, and I'm sure there's some accountants that do more than that. However, generalistically, that's kind of what I see. Yourself as an accountant, like, how far does that typically go with the relationship, and why is there a need for someone like yourself that goes beyond it?
Very good question, and agree with you on so many levels of that statement that you've made. As an accountant, yes, and you see again, there are accountants who are probably going above and beyond, but the percentage is just ticking the boxes. I've got the tax, I've got this revenue, I've got this. So there is a huge, huge gap between that financial knowledge and financial behaviors as well, where accountants, consultants, everything stops. So that's where, yes, everyone has an accountant, but they don't even understand how to look at their P&L, why they need to look at their P&L. Question number one. What's on their balance sheet? Why do they even need a balance sheet? What's the purpose of it? How often do they need to look at their cash flow? What is it doing? Again, the why is missing. And what I see is people are outsourcing that confidence that should be within to their accountants. And it's also, I feel it's a two-way street, because accountants, I've also heard the accountant side where they're like, business owners are not ready to spend the money. They are not ready to come and talk to us as well, because at times accountants are quite expensive. They don't have enough money to go to them quarterly. So there's like problems both sides. It's not just one side. But then on the other side, the accountants are just ticking the boxes, and they are just making their business based on quantity rather than quality. And that's why when I left my corporate world, I said, I don't want to be another accountant who is just doing the tax returns. Tax comes after. Tax is your end product. What happens in between is what matters. And that's where I changed my approach, that I'm not, as an accountant, I can look back the historical data and tell you, okay, blah, 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 this is needs to happen. By the time it's too late. You need a forward approach, because you're making decisions in the business every single day. And if you don't have that clarity, it's super, super hard to make decisions. And even if you're making those decisions, you're actually making those decisions based on fear, based on your reactions, based on your emotions. And that's what I coach my clients to take a step back, look at yourself first. What are your patterns? What are your beliefs that's actually falling into your everyday decision making? That's step number one. Step number two, now that you have recognized what needs to change, something needs to change.
So with those patterns, like when someone comes to you first for help, what is the most common patterns you see with people?
The most common
what comes
is
up time and time again?
the most common is, I'm never good with money. I don't like numbers. I was never taught. My mum never showed me this, or my dad never talked about this. I just rely on my accountant or my partner. They do everything for me. This is what I'm seeing. So that means there's an avoidance. They don't want to look at it. They're too scared to look at it. Ugly, good, or bad, they still need to look at it. But they are too scared because they've never, ever done it in their life. They've never showed. A, or someone probably said in their life, oh, this is just not my thing. I'm very creative. I'll just focus on my creativeness, but not around running the business. And when they start running the business, it shows in their businesses. It shows in their everyday decisions. And that's where the shift needs to happen.
So what do you think it actually costs a business owner when they're not engaged with their own finances? Like if someone's technically sort of handling it for them, what do you think that the opportunity costs are, or the risks? What's it costing them really?
Huge. I'll give you an example. This woman, right? So when I was talking to her, we realized that she grew up in a scarcity environment, not very, they didn't have a lot of money. So whatever money she had saved in her life was her security, right? So she would always hang on to it and stuff. And similarly, when she saw money in her bank account, in her business, she kind of got stuck to it. Again, having that same patterns and beliefs. She went to a business coach and myself and all of that. She wanted to grow the business. Now, in order to grow the business, at times you do have to spend the money. Whether it could be your marketing, it could be you buying a new product or outsourcing, whatever it could be, right? She was not ready to spend that money at all. She was too scared. She was scared because she thought that if she's going to spend that money, her security is going to go. Rather than thinking that I'm spending this money for a reason, and what's the risk that coming from it? What's the calculated risk I'm taking here? Instead of going into that pattern, she went into the negative pattern, which she always believed in, and then she ended up not growing her business. So that's costed her a lot, because at the end, whenever you're creating a business, the aim of the business is to grow, right? Otherwise, you're in a very exhaustive full-time job, which you have to
you've got a busy job with overheads. Yeah. You talk about removing the shame and jargon from finance.
Yeah.
Where does that sort of shame come from business owners, do you think? Because, I mean, just thinking back, like even Richard Branson, at the height of his businesses, I remember came out from a business meeting, and he didn't know what was gross profit. He didn't know what gross profit meant.
Yep.
And someone had to actually pause the meeting, take him outside to explain.
Yep.
And this is a man with companies with multiple hundreds of millions of dollars.
Absolutely. So, I will give you an example of this lady, right? Corporate lady coming and opening her new business. And in the corporate world, obviously you have departments, you have people, you have plenty of team that are working for you. So you're making executive level decisions if you're at that position with a support of a lot of people, not just on your own. You need the data, you get a team to provide you the data, right? So, and you're making decisions based on what's being presented to you. However, when you come into your business, so you're making all $1 million decisions and all of that on an everyday basis with your team members, with all the information that you get. When you come into your own business, things flip. You're wearing that hat yourself. You had the finance team to give you all of that information for you to make that decision, but now you got to learn it yourself. And that's where a lot of businesses owners don't understand the importance of learning it yourself. You do need an accountant. Absolutely, you do need that support, but you also need to have the confidence in yourself, because at the end, it's your business, it's your liability, it's your decisions. And say gross profit. If I don't even know how much gross profit I'm making, how can I actually make any decision? So giving a very live example of one of my clients, right? She runs a restaurant. And when she came to me, again, very passionate, wanted to get into both husband and wife, open the business. Very passionate people. They know they have a very good vision. They know where they want to be in their life 5 years down the track. However, when the business started making losses, they panicked. They're like, this is not what we thought our business would be, because they probably do have a commercial knowledge, but they don't have the financial knowledge, how to run it, what to say. So when she started coming on board, we went through every single thing. So we looked at the labor cost, for example. We looked at the product cost. We looked at the cost of sales. So now, if one product is not making money, what do we do? Do we take it out? Do we not take it out? That clarity gave them so much confidence to take things out of their menu or to add to their menu. Because if you don't know the numbers, unfortunately, you can't make decisions like this. And if you can't make decisions like this, your business is very hard to grow. You'll be
I
stuck.
love it.
You'll be stuck in where you are.
Now, Tam, you're a certified profit first professional.
Yes.
So for someone who's never heard of profit first, do you just want to give a little bit of a rundown as to how it works in practice?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was introduced to Profit First last year at a networking event, which was, I had heard the word Profit First previously in my career, but I never got into it, or no, I was like, oh, that's something I'll do later, kind of a thing, right? Last year, when I met this at a networking event and we started talking, and this lady was like, Profit First Coach. I was like, what do you mean, Profit First Coach? Like, what is that? So I started getting into it more detail, and I met the author who's written the book, Mike, who's American, and he was in Australia at the time. So, and they were having a conference in Sydney. So I flew to Sydney to understand what that is and to meet him. Right? It was a great opportunity. Now, in a very simple term, what is profit first? In our accounting, as an accountant or even as a business owner, we know one formula, which is revenue minus expenses equals your profit. Everyone knows that, right? What Mike did was he changed the approach and he said, we all are here to make profit. So why is profit kept at the end? It has to be at the beginning. So he reversed the formula to revenue minus profit equals expenses, which works in real life. Because the reason it works is because every business should be profitable. So your priority should be profit, not whatever is left over. So what Profit First does, it works on setting allocations in your business to make it profitable. So your profit comes first, not at the end.
Pay yourself first, people.
Exactly. Yeah. So now it's divided into, so it's inspired by the Parkinson's law. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. So what Parkinson's law means is if you see something, you feel that, oh, it's all mine, I'll play with it. Giving a simple example in the cash flow terms. If I'm seeing a revenue of 20,000 in my bank account, I'm like, oh, I've got money, I can spend it, let's go and do it, right? And I've seen a lot of businesses doing that in my career, right? Corporates as well. And so what Parkinson's law does, so obviously it gives itself that position, but what Profit First is saying that, hang on, it's not all your money yet. So what we're doing is we are actually creating 5 bank accounts, different bank accounts. So we have a bank account for revenue, where your income comes in. We have an account for expenses only, which means all the expenses has to go from that account. Number 3, owner's pay. You have to pay yourself. How many businesses out there don't even pay themselves? The owners don't pay them because they're like, the business is not making profit, I'm not going to pay myself. And what happens? They drain themselves, they lose. They're like, oh, I would have been better doing a corporate job rather than running my business. I can't even pay myself, right? So third important is owners pay. Number 4, taxes. No one wants a tax debt. If you keep that allocation every month in your bank account, so you have a buffer. When the tax time comes, you have the amount available for you to pay the tax without any stress, without any anxiety or fear or getting into the debts. And so that's number 5. So revenue, expenses, owners pay, taxes, and then, so pretty much those ones. So that's your core. And then you can go further down to say, if someone has a special need, like if their goal is to have 3 holidays in a year. Then we go and do separate accounts. So now what it's doing is that 20,000 that you saw in the revenue is now distributed into those different accounts as per different allocations based on your business and based on your needs, based on your goals. So the profit now, you have taken 10%. You have taken your owner's pay, say 35%. You have taken your tax, say 15%, 20%, whatever the figure or allocation would be. So now you're not left with 20,000 in your revenue. You're only probably left with 5. That's your real cash.
So I've got to be honest with you. One, I do pay myself first. I do have separate account for likes of tax, etc. I don't have 5, okay, but it's the starting portion. So I need to ask you for yourself, Tam. Do you follow profit first?
Yes. And that was one of... So when I went last year, I wanted to understand the whole thing before I went into it, right? And then as a profit first coach certification, you actually have to implement in your business first. Otherwise, you can't be certified.
Yep.
So that's one of the criteria. So if I'm not doing it myself, I can't preach it, right? And that's when the change happened in my business, because as when I came out of corporate and started my business, I was exactly the same. Like I wouldn't pay myself, or I'll pay myself until the end. And I have seen that a lot. And I was the same. But when I was introduced to Profit First, I was like, I need to change this because I'm spending so much time on my business. I need to pay myself as well, right? I'm different to my business legally. So I had to make the shift myself. And that shift was obviously a part of my certification as well. I had to prove them that, yes, I have made the changes. These are my bank account. This is what I do monthly and stuff. So we have to review it every 3 months ourselves, as like the other team members and stuff. So that's part of the process, but that has given me a lot of clarity, to be honest with you. Now, in my business, so if I have an expense, right? So I have a clear amount sitting in my expense bank account. So I know that if I'm in a position to spend that $10,000 on marketing or not, do I need to delay it? So previous to that, when I have worked in other businesses and, we didn't have that. So whatever we saw in the revenue, we're like, oh yeah, we got money, let's spend it on branding or marketing. But now separating it out made so much clarity that, probably we need to wait another 3 months, or probably, yes, we can do it now, or no, we can't do it now. So it's just gave us a lot of clarity and a control on the expenses as well.
Okay. Tam, we're going to dumb it down a little bit now, because we said before, some people don't even know what a profit and loss are and what a balance sheet. In real simple terms, can you, for those listening that, just are maybe too afraid to ask the question, profit and loss, balance sheet, give us a rundown of what we're looking at on each and why.
Yeah, sure. Profit and loss is your picture which shows you whether your business is making money, not specifically on a cash flow, right? But is it feasible, right? Is your business model correct, right? So profit and loss is basically all your income coming in and all your expenses going out. So whatever is left is your net profit or net loss. Very simple, right? When we come to balance sheet is where a lot of stuff lies, but people don't understand them. Balance sheet is a snapshot of where you are at one particular time in your business, right? Which means that if today I'm looking at my cash balance, if I'm looking at my assets, total assets, let me take one step back. So balance sheet is your assets and your liabilities and your equity in the business, right? So that's what it represents. It's the how do I say it in a very simple language? It's the backbone of your business. Yeah. So can you, in a very simple language, it tells you whether you can pay your liabilities at any given point in time. Do you have enough assets to pay for your liabilities, right? If the answer is no, then you're struggling a little bit. If the answer is yes, you're in a good position. And it can change, it can fluctuate, right? And so people needs to understand that you need a balance sheet, or you need to understand balance sheet to see where you're at, where you want to grow. If if your net equity is want to grow your business, do you have the capacity to bring in more assets, or do you have enough assets in the business already? If you want to sell your business, there are times when people want to sell, get out of the business. What's your equity in the business then? And those decisions, looking at the balance sheet, tells you whether you are in a better position or not. If your balance sheet is not reconciled, if your balance sheet is not up to date, you cannot ask for, say, if you're selling your business, your company is worth nothing because your balance sheet is saying completely different.
You mentioned before that, and I know this of a lot of people, they wait once a year for the accountant to send them some papers back, and then they have a look at it, don't necessarily understand it.
Mm-hmm.
In your opinion, how often should a business owner actually be looking at, one, their profit and loss, and two, their balance sheet?
Profit and loss and balance sheet, both minimum requirement is monthly.
At a minimum, guys. Yeah.
Yes. When you do your month-end closing books, you need to look at where you are. You need to understand how much is your profit margin, for example, gross profit, net profit, what product, and then you go deeper into, once you have seen that, what's your profit? Is that what you expected? And a lot of people might just do their books, but then they don't even know where they're heading. The other problem is that. Because they're like, oh, this month this looks fine. I made that, like, $10,000 profit in this month. A question: have you paid yourself first? Have you put in all the expenses correctly? Okay, that's fine. Happy if you've done all of that. So that $10,000 that you have in the profit, now how long do you think that's going to be the trend? What's your forecast? What are you aiming for? How you want to succeed? So 100% once a month. And same with balance sheet. You need to review, for example, cash flow, right? Cash is part of your asset. If your cash is dripping down, which you can compare between the months, you'll need to understand, you'll need to go in deep down and say, okay, what's happening? Is my AR, we are not receiving money? Do we need to change the process? Are we not collecting enough one time? Or expenses, AP, right? Your debt, your creditors. Is it piling up? That means your liability is piling up. Why is it piling up? Why are we not in a position to bring that down? Why is my cash flow so low? So there's a lot of components when you look at that balance sheet. You can clearly understand. And in order for you to understand, you need to look at them. If you don't look at them, you can't understand.
Like I said, getting that clarity builds confidence
100%.
to make decisions, right? Now, you work specifically with women-led businesses and women in leadership. Side note, I wonder what would happen if I just specifically had a men. Doesn't quite have the same ring to it, does it? Like, it's helping men in business.
Yeah,
I'll get in trouble if I did that. But look, women in leadership. What unique financial challenges do you feel like women face in small business, maybe in a world that's, just not talking about this enough?
Yeah, I think it goes back to how we were raised as well. There's a lot of, mental, like, I'll go back to my upbringing. My mum was very good with money. She was a very good money manager, but was she a person who would go and earn? No, it was the dad. It was the male. So he had more financial authority and knowledge, but mum was running the whole house.
Yep.
And that's how we were. I have seen a lot, right? So women, like, they're very good at managing money, but not necessarily good at making money. So what that did was the risk tolerance in women. They want safety. They're not ready to take risk. And as a business owner, unfortunately, you have to take risk in decisions that you make every day. And I'm not talking about like crazy massive risk, but a calculated risk. What's the return
Yep.
on investment and things like that. And for some reason, men seems to be really good at taking a risk, which I have seen. And another aspect that I've seen with women is outsourcing, right? This is the biggest one because they feel like, oh, someone else will do it for me, which is in a way is good. As I mentioned previously, yes, you do need that support, but you also need to understand yourself before you can trust them. And a lot of them fall into this again because of shame, fear, because we're like, oh, I never did it before. My family was never like that. We were never exposed to it. So hence, all of those things comes into your everyday decisions. So it's very if like with my client, they run small businesses together. So it doesn't mean that I'm not helping the male. The male comes in the sessions as well, because at times male help needs help too. Not everyone's grown up with
Oh,
that
no, we know
mindset.
everything.
Exactly. Like my husband, when I met him, he would not have any financial security. For him, that never mattered, never existed in his life because
I
that's
think
how
it's
he
very,
was
very
raised.
true about that generational thing, isn't it? The new generation. Okay, so let's agree that generations, the prior generation to mine, I guess, it was very much like that in terms of the woman's role and the man's role. What about the younger generation right now? I think they've probably got a different set of problems, that they've just probably got no financial control, anyone, especially with, the credit culture, pay it back later, instant gratification. You deal with a lot of, do you see the difference in the younger generation when you're dealing with people?
Huge, huge. Yes. It's that social media, instant gratification, that too easy to get into debt. There was this, I was talking to different mortgage owners, and they were telling me the stories of people who come to them for getting a loan, right, for their first home, and they are all into debts, afterpay, and all of those things, which is very easily accessible. And their understanding is, I'm paying it monthly, so it's not a debt. So it's a lack of education. The products are there to make your life easier, but what's lacking with these products is the education. I'll give you my example. When I came to Australia 21 years ago, and I asked for a credit card as a student, and I was rejected. I could not have a credit card. And at that time, I felt a bit sad. I was like, oh, why couldn't I have a credit card? But that was the best decision ever, because I don't, like, yes, we do have a family credit card, but I don't have a personal credit card. I don't want to be in that zone. And so using a credit card, like having a credit card, is not the problem. How you use it. Have you been told? You're forking all this money, Uber Eats and all of that, subscriptions. Oh my God, subscriptions is the big one. Another one, like they'll subscribe to 10,000 things and forget about it. And then they'll keep paying and not even using it. And then when they come for the loans, they're declined, they're rejected because they have so much debt. Their expenses are way higher than their revenue, their income, for example. And similarly, again, if they start the business, all these things shows up because they are just getting more money, more debt in their business, and they feel, oh, they'll cover that with the revenue. They'll keep getting revenue, but then at one stage, we are getting affected by different economies. Even now, every single person is getting affected by what's happening in the world. So what's happening? Chaos, anxiety, stress, closing down of businesses. I was looking at the insolvency data, and that has increased so much in last, even pre-COVID. It has increased tremendously.
It's been a hard run ever since
Very.
2020. Hey, just as you're talking there about credit cards and all the rest, I've just had a memory that sort of just flooded back to me. I used to work in a bank. Okay, that was like my first career. And you know what? One of the most satisfying things is when I would take someone's credit card because they clearly couldn't operate their money, and I would hold it up in front of them, and I'd get the scissors and cut it up right in front of them.
Wow. We
And
want more
honestly,
people
I
like
think that
you.
taught them a big lesson. I'd basically say, hey, well, you've got two options here. You either take this card if I give you another one, and you're going to put it in the freezer, like physically freeze it in a block of ice. And I do remember some clients that did it. If they had to get it, they had to like work to get it out, in a big ice cream container. But yeah, others is like, nah, this is not working for you. Cut. Let's sort something out.
Exactly.
So yeah, and that was probably just even before all that sort of
100%.
Afterpay and HP Easy.
And again, it's going back to the education. You can have all these products if you know how to use them correctly.
Mm.
You don't want to pay interest. Pay whatever you're spending on your monthly, have your budget or your business budget. I see a lot of in small businesses as well, like they'll get a credit card and everything will go on the credit card. Their personal expenses, their business expenses. And then there was this lady, which is, I have to share the story with you. She wanted to sell her business, right? So she asked for X amount. When the buyer came and they started looking at the financials and all of that, I was like, what is this? That doesn't make any sense. What is it? And that lady was like, these are all my personal expenses. And they were like, what? Like, why would you put that in the business? So obviously all of that, then the broker had to do the work because the lady could not do it. So they went in and spent all of the work to make the business more feasible for them to sell. Mm-hmm. And at the end, what happened was whatever amount she was wanted for her business, she got 30% less than that. Yeah. From a simple thing of keeping this expenses separate. And she was like, oh, that's what my accountant told me.
Okay.
So, things like these, we think like we take it for granted, but they at the end do add up and have a massive impact on your businesses. As simple as that.
Tam, what's the best money mindset shift you've seen in a client?
The best money mindset that I've seen so far is, again, I'll give you that example of the client who runs the restaurant. So when they came to me, again, they were raised in a very scarcity mindset, like they didn't have money. Then the girl was raised by a single mom, so obviously the resources were limited and stuff. And when they were young, they started earning money at the age of 14, and they were like, now I've got some money, but now I want to do all the things that I have never done. So instead of saving, they've went it into the splurge, right? Because they're not seeing the money. However, there was a time in their life and stuff where when they got married, and probably maturity as well, I would say, and when you have your family and stuff, things change, which is right. For some people it does, and for some it doesn't, which is okay. But I think they started to realize that what their patterns were, what their behaviors were not serving them any better anymore. So I did the money scripts with them. So I showed them where they're sitting at and what needs to happen in their business to survive. So they can't go in and splurge money in their business like they had done previously. So that was the biggest shift for them, because they understood that, okay, now we are in a different situation, we're in a different journey, we are in a different growth of our life, and now we need to act in a different way because previously whatever we did is not working well for us anymore. So that was the biggest shift that I have seen in their mindset. And now they're very vigilant. Yes, they do spend, but they're also very vigilant. And at times, their old values and beliefs do come to their mind. It's not like it's vanished, but they know, they have the clarity now. They know, okay, it's there, but do I need to follow that? Probably not. I'll go that way because that's where my clarity is. That's where I'm closer to my goal. So that mental shift was very important for them. And even now, when they look at their P&L, so now when they look at their P&L, they're not stressed. They're like, yeah, we
understand. They've got the clarity.
We know our goals. We will get there. This is a journey.
You know what, Tim? It blows my mind that we just don't teach the financial basics in school. There was one day when I was in primary school in class where my teacher just went off on a rant and actually showed us how to budget. And I'll tell you, from that one moment, it was probably an hour in primary school, I still remember it. but it went a long way for me. So I just really don't understand why it isn't just like a core subject like money management, how we, set up a bank account, how we pay our mortgage, everything in between. So I wish there was probably something out there.
Absolutely. I was exactly like you when I started. So one of the goals of Sense and Solution is to go and teach kids as well, which will happen in the future. Right now, so I actually went through that path. So I spoke to a lot of teachers. I spoke to principals, and I spoke to people who are running these sessions privately and the bodies where government are supporting it. So changes are happening. But like in California, I think California is the first state in the world to introduce that as a mandatory subject.
Oh, good on them.
Exactly. And so things are changing, but one of the things that I saw or heard was the mindset of the principal is super important because everything flows down from the leader. If school principal has a business mindset approach, they will go through that path. If they don't, they're rejected there because their traditional thinking comes in. That's one of
I would say a lot of principals are still stuck in the education sector, not necessarily that real world sector as well. So
absolutely.
Few and far between, I would just predict.
Yes. So that's one of the biggest challenges. The second challenge is the teachers. Again, that mentality, that mindset that we already have so much to teach the kids that we don't have that extra time or the capacity ourselves to learn and then teach. So the cost involved is very high there. So I've spoken to a lot of people around this, and it's very interesting how it's come up. But yes, changes are happening. The government is funding on a private, so that they go to schools, year 11 and 12, and at home. And that's why I teach to parents, to business owners and stuff, because it all starts at home as well.
100%.
You can't just do it as good. So my son, who is 9, he knows what an asset is. He knows what a balance sheet is. He is learning to do budget. He goes to a business school as well.
I love it. Hey, Tam, a valuable conversation today. I think a lot of people listening are going to sort of walk away with a very different relationship to their numbers. So before we wrap up, if people want to work with you, get access to you and talk about Sense and Solutions, where is the best place for them to go?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best place is, I've got my website, which is www.senseandsolutions.com.au. I have a 30-minute fleet clarity call with every client that come on board. So please go ahead and make use of that. And if you can find me on LinkedIn as well, Facebook. So if you need to have a chat, please reach out. My email is Rehlia, Relia, at senseandsolutions.com.au. And I hope this message reaches out to a lot of people and they can make some shift in their life. So I really hope they understand and build a different relationship with their money, with their cash flow, with their business.
I agree. So if you are listening to this episode and you're thinking differently about your business, whether it's sales, systems, or strategy, that is the point. So if you do want help identifying your biggest bottleneck or mapping out your next moves in your business, feel free to book a free breakthrough session with myself and the Coachbirds team. Thanks again, Tam, for being so open and practical today. And to everyone listening, remember the businesses that grow are not the ones with the most revenue. They're the ones with the clearest picture of where their money is going and why. So that clarity is everything. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle.
Let's talk small business. I appreciate you tuning in. If you got value, hit subscribe, like, or drop a comment. It spreads the word and might just help another legend get their breakthrough.